Hey everyone, JJ here. Thanks again for liking these videos and hitting the subscribe button if this information is helpful. Getting right into it, GDP numbers were great. They came out at 33% today, which is up from last quarter where we had a contraction of 31%. So a big rebound in growth, and the stock market really likes that. So we're having a recovery day. It's a nice rebound after the last couple of days of record type volatility and markets not doing well. So we're getting a little bit of a reprieve today. Now, there's unfortunately still a high number when it comes to unemployment. When we look at unemployment back in February before COVID shutdowns, we were tracking around 3.5%, which is some of the best unemployment numbers that we've had in quite some time. Now in March, that number spiked up rapidly as businesses were shut down and things were closing. We were at 14% in March. Now when we look at the unemployment numbers, it's right around 8% nationally. So still higher than 3.5% we had pre-COVID. And that's going to take some time to come down. So we've got a lot of unemployed Americans that are still out there. Even though the number is lower than it was in March, it's still a concerning number. So fiscal stimulus is still something that's necessary to help a number of Americans that are unemployed due to COVID. We want to see a quicker recovery in not just the stock market, but also the economy. And to do that, we still need to see more stimulus. We're not seeing anything in the near term, like we've mentioned in prior videos, but still hopeful to see that over the next couple of months. All right, talking globally, we've got fresh COVID shutdowns in Europe, in particular France and Germany, but there's mixed news there. In Germany, they came out with a partnership with Pfizer regarding a vaccine. There's an expectation that a vaccine is going to be available for healthcare workers, vulnerable population, starting this year, perhaps in December. So just a couple of weeks away, and I think that's very good news globally, and perhaps that same trajectory is what we may see here as well in the US. All right, so I've gotten some questions on the implications of more stimulus. How is that going to affect the US dollar? How is that going to affect inflation? What is that going to do for the strength of the US on a go-forward basis? Are we trying to solve a short-term issue for longer-term pain? And I think that those are valid questions. We have to look at this and say, what are the longer-term implications? What's going to happen in the short run? So right now, when I'm looking at interest rates are extremely low. Interest rates are at near zero. And to put this in perspective, the 10-year Treasury bond, which is issued by the US government, it's trading at around 70 basis points, or 0.7%. Very, very low number. So if you're the US government, you're borrowing for cheap. If you're an investor in government bonds, you're not getting paid a whole lot to own government debt. So on a 10-year basis, the US government is going to pay you 0.7% on an annual basis for the next 10 years, and then you get your principal back at the end of that 10-year period. So if you invest $1,000 in a US government bond, they're going to pay you a great rate of $7 a year, right? Not a lot of income for fixed income investors. So that's been pushing a lot of money into risk markets. There's not really much fixed income, especially high-grade fixed income, which US government bonds are high-grade fixed income, that you can invest in and actually earn much of a return. Okay, so talking a little bit more outside of traditional markets, there's a hot topic, especially for the younger generation, in digital currencies. The leader in digital currency, Bitcoin. So full disclosure, I don't own any Bitcoin. Never purchased it, don't own any of it. But as I'm learning more about the asset class and the way that this has came about, there's been a lot of money that was made in digital currency investors over the last 5, even 10 years since these have actually came out. It was a very small market. and now it's started to become a little bit more of a mass market. And when I look at the Bitcoin price at $13,000 for one Bitcoin, that's up. And part of the reason Bitcoin is up is it seems to react very similar to a more traditional asset class like gold. And gold generally reacts well when there's a high level of uncertainty in markets. So it's kind of used as a hedge against the US dollar. And going back into the 70s, the US actually had a gold standard where US dollar was backed by gold. Gold standard went away, and now the US dollar is simply backed by the full faith of the US government. So there's nothing physically backing the US dollar outside of our economic system, which is a capitalist system, as well as our court system. All of that together, people have faith in the US dollar, but there's no gold standard anymore. It's not backed by anything else outside of our system. So I can see some of the attraction to a digital currency where you don't have anything backing Bitcoin outside of source code, right? And more people using it and adopting it. With Square, ticker symbol SQ, which is a big payment processing and financial company. CEO is Jack Dorsey, or the founder of that. He's also the founder of Twitter, which you've probably seen him with his really long beard in the news over the last couple of days. But Square as a company has said they're actually going to be accepting Bitcoin. And what I've also found is Bitcoin is the default gambling currency. So if you wanted to move a sizable chunk of money over $3,000 into an offshore betting account like Bovada, the way to do that would be through Bitcoin transaction versus not using a credit card, which is more US based, right? A lot of people are using Bitcoin to move money around on the gambling side of things. So Bitcoin has a larger audience than even I was expecting. So this is something that I'd like to track. I think about it like gold. It's a hedge against inflation. It's a hedge against the US dollar. It's something that young people and many people of this demographic are very passionate about. So a topic we'll get a little bit more familiar with as we go. But based upon what's happening here in terms of inflation and expectations over the long run, that is going to bring some currency volatility down the line. I don't think that that's going to happen right away, but it's something that is likely to be a discussion depending upon how the next 4, 5, 10 years go. If there's going to be more stimulus along the way, how the economy recovers. It's going to be a very interesting time frame over the last couple of years. This is the first time that any of us have been through the COVID pandemic, and we've been talking so much about it. And a lot of people are tired, and I think that there's a little bit of COVID fatigue. I don't want to let our guard down. I want to continue to talk about what's happening, and COVID is still going to be a big part of this. We're hopeful for 2021 where we can get together, have more fun, travel, which is what a lot of the young generation was doing before the virus came about. So hopeful for the next 12 months and next year at this time. My hope is we're talking about a lot more fun things while growing and understanding and really coming together. And I enjoy when we have discussions from people that are coming from different walks of life and different parts of their career and different political views. When we come together and we have a civil discussion where we're respectful of other people, I think we all grow. And a big part of this channel was what I was finding is the young generation really didn't feel like capitalism was working for them. And as someone that grew up in a middle-class household and someone that has had capitalism work for them, I want to share some of what's worked for me, and hopefully I can help impact that conversation but also understand where more socialist-leaning people are coming from and why and what specifically are the policies and the issues that you care about. And if we can do that all together, I think the discussion is going to find middle ground. So thanks so much for tuning in. If this was helpful, hit the like button. If it was very helpful, please do subscribe to the channel. Thanks again.